Welcome back to Spill the Soup, the podcast that gives you insight into the life of a 2021 teenager in these incredible times. I'm your host, Marley Comito, and this week we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and the impact it has had on teens, more specifically, current high school seniors. Today, I am once again joined by two guests and incredible friends of mine, Nate Zuber and Shayna Kaplan. Welcome both of you to the show, and thank you so much for coming. If you guys want to introduce yourself, feel free. Maybe say your name, your age. We know that we're all seniors, but also where you go to school.
Shayna, please go first.
Thanks, Nate. I'm Shayna Kaplan. I am 17 years old, so a senior at Hopkins High School.
My name is Nate Zuber. I am a 17-year-old, going to be 18 in about 4 days, and I go to Wayzata High School, so that would mean I'm a senior as well.
I didn't know you were a Pisces.
Not really a huge astrology dude, but I've been told that I am.
Okay, so for everybody else listening, I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer once again today that the podcast's intentions are to keep this conversation as open and honest as possible. Shayna, Nate, and I will be sharing as much as we feel comfortable with, and what we talk about today is simply from our personal experiences and opinions, not based on any facts or right versus wrong. So with that being said, let's get right into the episode. Okay. As we near our real last day of normal school anniversary, being March 13th, 2020, I wanted to dedicate our first topic to online school and distance learning. So my first question for you both is, do you feel like it's been harder to get schoolwork done online? What have been the pros and cons of virtual school for you so far after almost a year of doing it? Who would like to start?
I can start out. It's kind of funny. The difference between like last year and this year is definitely crazy. Like second semester versus this first semester so far, and now the second semester, like everything was so unprepared. It was almost like we were sitting bored at home, like for hours on end. But now, like, I feel like at least Wayzata has done a good job of keeping us busy, but not too busy. I feel like I have a good balance of schoolwork and being able to have some leisure time. But like sitting at home, having the distraction of my phone or the TV, computer, whatever it is, I would say my work habits have definitely deteriorated a little bit. And, you know, that senior year slide is definitely kicking into my mentality too. So yeah, overall, I'd have to admit that my work habits have deteriorated slightly, but I've been able to manage it. We're all pros at school.
I think for me, online school has definitely been a challenge in the way of just like, I feel like I'm not learning as much. Yes. I feel like I wake up, I do my classes in order to take a test that I'm not actually being tested. I don't know. But I definitely feel like now with like second semester and senior sliding, like I don't really have as much going on, less motivation too.
Yeah, and something I've heard from a lot of people is that online school just feels optional, even though a lot of it, or our teachers say that it's similar to what we'd be doing if we were in person. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like busy work. And like you were saying, Shayna, it feels like we're being tested on material that we didn't even properly learn. So I totally get that. And on that note, because we've officially reached second semester of our senior year, are either of you thinking about going back to school to get a sense of some normalcy? And what do you think has been the biggest loss for us this year as seniors?
So we're actually going back to school not this week. We have today and tomorrow and Friday off as planning days. We're going back on the 8th. So we're going from basically nothing to 4 days of school a week. So that's going to be a really crazy adjustment. I mean, from laying in bed for half the day during my classes to getting up at 7 and actually going to school. But the biggest thing lost this year, I mean, for me, was just the entire experience going to football games, dances, seeing like a bunch of people in the hallways, people that I probably won't see again after this year. I mean, now I've been able to go to some hockey games and basketball games, but it's just those like school events and social like aspects to school that's what I miss the most. And that's what I'm excited to get back with these last couple months.
Definitely.
I can I can definitely agree with Nate about those social aspects being the most important. Like Marley and I last year in February, like skipped our Sadie Hawkins dance to go to a concert. And we were like, oh, it's okay. We'll have Sadie's next year. And like now we didn't have a prom. We didn't have a homecoming. We didn't have like, so we've just missed like so much. And when it comes
But what concert was it?
Ian Dior.
It was so fun.
Honestly, like maybe worth it.
And like $20 tickets. It was a great time.
It was insane.
100% worth it. All right, sorry to cut you. I just had
to. And I forgot the rest. Oh, we are going in person starting. We are currently 1 day a week, and then on the 8th we will be 2 days a week, and then in the end of March we're going back 4 days a week. So that will be a big adjustment, and I'm honestly kind of scared to know what like real school is going to be like with like tests and stuff, because it's kind of a joke right now, but we'll find out, I guess.
It's sad.
Personally, no, you go. No, for sure, you go.
One thing I've noticed is that in some of my classes, I don't even know what the kids look like because kids just turn their cameras off the whole time. And it makes me so sad for our teachers because they're talking to just like black screens. And I'll look at my brother's classes. He's at the junior high, but he's in 9th grade. That's just how Hawkins works. And sometimes he'll say that his teachers ask kids to turn off their cameras because it's like distracting for them, or kids turn them off as a choice because they get distracted looking at themselves. I don't know how it works, but it makes me sad to think that like once we go back to school, it's going to be weird seeing people and other people seeing people because I don't even know what half my classmates look like. So I thought that was interesting, or what you guys thought of turning on your camera, turning off your camera, that whole thing.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be weird to go from blank screen. And I feel so bad for teachers. Like, this is their whole livelihood that's been taken away for a year or two. Yeah, they're talking at black screens. Kids are, like, very hesitant to participate. There's been some cases of, rude Zoom bombings or, whatever it is. So I do feel bad for teachers. And they've been working pretty hard to get us, like, fairly decent content. So I have a lot of respect for teachers for sure.
On my last day of first semester, my AP psychology teacher wanted to carry on her tradition of taking a class photo on the last day. And so she asked for everyone to turn on their cameras. And I think it was the first time I had seen over 75% of the class's faces. It was insane. Yeah. And I've had that teacher before. I have so much respect for her. And it was funny, but also super sad.
Yeah, I was in that class too, and the way her face lit up, and she was like, "This is so amazing to see all of you," and that is so sad. If we were at school, we would all have to look our best or look presentable and meet her face to face. It's just, I don't know, whatever. So I've heard mixed things about it, but one thing on the note of online school that I wanted to ask you guys, and specifically you guys, because of all the flexibility that it provides us, I know that you both recently returned back to Minnesota after spending a month or two quarantining, doing school, and living in Florida to escape the cold winter here. So I really just wanted to ask what that was like. How was your travel experience? Would it ever make you guys uncomfortable to witness people in public not wearing masks or properly social distancing because it was Florida? So, how was that?
That was a very, very interesting experience. I mean, for me personally, I started school. Actually, no, I started before. Anyway, I would sit in bed and I would get out of bed after first block, and I wouldn't have a spot outside because there's only so much space outside. Either my dad, my brother, and my sister, my dad, my mom, I got beat to the outside areas all the time. So really for the 3 weeks that I was there for school, I mean, I was trapped inside and so it was almost like living at home in a way that was I realized halfway through, I'm like, I'm really wasting my time here. But what I was able to do is, cause I didn't work, I took a month off work cause obviously I couldn't work. I have so much time later in the day. I would go work out, we'd eat dinner outside. So I still had a great experience. And that was the point when COVID was 7 times more cases than it is now. And so people were very, very careful, and everything was basically shut down here, I think, fully. So we kind of got out Shayna like the perfect time. But then you go to a different world in Florida. You go into the grocery store and there's like 30% no masks. And it's like, what's happening? This is 2 different worlds. And yeah, that was my experience.
I would say, well, my family is very COVID cautious. And we did fly down there. So that was an interesting experience. It was actually my second time on a plane because I had to make a college tour earlier this year. But going on an airplane was really interesting, and just like seeing some flight attendant after being on 2 flights, like some flight attendants are very strict with the masks, some aren't. Like you can see sometimes like the airport custodian staff like don't wear masks. It's just like a totally different experience. And then you get down to Florida, and I remember we like picked up food at Panera or something, and literally nobody was wearing a mask. And I like forgot that Florida, like people don't wear masks. And so it was a really big, I wouldn't call it a culture shock, but like almost kind of a culture shock in the
It was taboo. It was taboo.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. And so because we're so COVID safe, we didn't really do all that much, but we did go to the beach like a few times a week. And when we would go to the beach, we would go to like a private access to make sure that we weren't near people. We never went out to eat at restaurants. We just did pickup. I don't think I went into a single grocery store. I would say we were even more cautious than we would be at home just because we knew it was Florida.
Swear I didn't visit the beach once. I did not go to the beach once.
That's so sad.
I'm not a huge beach guy.
Did you at least have a pool?
I don't know. I never made it out. Yeah, we had a pool, but like I never made it out to the beach. I was in grocery stores. I don't know. We had pretty opposite experiences, it sounds like.
Oh my God.
I was able to get out to the Vikings game though. That was fun. We drove too. I want to say that we drove because a combination. My parents wanted a car down there, and they didn't. I mean, they didn't really want us in the airport, and that ride was miserable. Let me tell you, it's a 25-hour. We split it up into 2 days. Like I've done a road trip to Chicago. It's like 6-7 hours. We've done Omaha and maybe like St. Louis, which is like 6 or 8 hours. But my God, that is just a long, long ride. It drains you, but you get to visit some cool spots like Chattanooga, Tennessee. Very cool spot. I'm sure you guys will never ever go to Chattanooga, Tennessee, but I don't know. It was really cool there. And you got to go through it's a cool route. You go through like Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. I don't know. You get to visit like 10 or 12 states. It was cool, but it really sucked. I just had to say that.
Well, I feel like, honestly, this kind of relates better to the question because you got to see, like, 30% of the country or more. And so how were other states dealing with COVID? Were there any? Oh, my
gosh. That was a great – because you go from Minnesota to Wisconsin, and there's not as big of a difference as Florida, but there's definitely a difference there.
Yeah.
And you go to Illinois, then you go all the way back to Minnesota and, like, very safe. And then you get to Indiana where it loosens up. Kentucky, Tennessee is kind of iffy, and it just it kind of goes back and forth a little bit. And so yeah, we would be in like different places where we would go to one gas station, all these signs, mask up. Next state, totally nothing. People walking in no masks. Next state, like going right back. It was literally an alternation. And we had to be on our toes because it was just cultures thrown left and right, very different places that we were. But yeah, that was definitely cool to see too. I mean, not cool because there were some people not being safe, but that was interesting for sure.
Totally. And now that you're both back in Minnesota and able to readjust to all of your extracurriculars and college prep from home again, another reason I was so excited to have you both on is because we've been working together all year as the leaders of BBYO in Minnesota. So BBYO stands for B'nai B'rith Youth Organization, or is it something else now? I don't remember.
It's actually not.
It just
B'nai
doesn't
B'rith
stand for anything. It's
It
just
used to be.
Yeah.
They
It's
split from
ridiculous.
B'nai B'rith like 13 years ago.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. It stands for something, for those of you who don't know.
It actually it doesn't anymore. Sorry, I can just fill you in for a second. Because I actually have something interesting you guys don't know about. But I just shadowed Ian Candell for a internship class.
Who is that? Who's Ian Candell?
So Ian Candell is an international connection of Marley and I. He's the vice president of movement strategy at BBYO, which means he's one of the top guys at this large international organization. And I had to do a bunch of research about the organization to provide to my teacher. So it used to be a part of B'nai B'rith. They split up. And right when they split up, he said that's kind of when he joined. And he told me about how he grew the organization from basically North American and 10,000 kids to 55 countries and nearly 80,000 kids. And that was inspiring. That was really cool to see. But yeah, it's been, all things considered, it's been fun to work with you guys this year. I really wish we could have done it all in person and had all these fun, cool events, but
Nate, you're like totally getting ahead of my questions. Look at you
go.
No, thank you for the background information. That was actually really interesting. So yeah. I wanted to share that BBYO has recently repopularized in Minnesota with the fairly recent establishment of 2 new chapters, one of which Nate actually founded. So you can get into that in a little, maybe.
Oh, you don't need to just gas me up.
But this year, Nate and I serve as Minnesota BBYO's council's presidents. We are co's, and we oversee all chapters and members. And Shayna is the president of Habibi BBG, which is our BBYO girls chapter here. So, because it is our last year as BBYO members since we graduate in a few months, I wanted to ask you guys how you feel COVID has really impacted not only our final year, but most of our members too. And yeah, we can start with that and then go into more. What do you think?
It definitely sucks. Yeah. I mean, we were all so excited for SRC last year, the Spring Regional Convention in Kansas City, which happened about 2 weeks after kind of, everything fell apart. But we were very excited to bring the most, attendees we ever had, both sides, it sounded like. Yeah. It would have I think it would have jump-started a huge movement, even bigger than what's happening right now. And there would have been a lot of buzz. And this year, we had came up with many fun plans. We actually had this regional, kind of national plan to have it. It was supposed to be, I collaborated with the leaders of a bunch of different cities and states with Ian Candell, the vice president of movement strategy. And we were going to put a focus on implementing sports and activity into our programming this year. And then later this year combine together for a mini convention in Kansas where we would play at the Kansas University basketball stadium. We'd have a tournament there. Wow. It was going to be a super cool event. And that was something we'd planned for months. And then
That's so cool.
It just all dropped like that.
Oh my God, that was so sad.
I
actually I knew a little bit about that, but that is really sad.
Yeah.
What do you think, Shayna?
Everything was put on pause so quickly. The 3 of us actually went to the international convention last year in February over President's Day weekend. And the international convention is 5,000 Jewish teens from around the world gather at some big convention center in some big city, do a lot of fun things, have some really cool guest speakers. And so it was a really fun 5 days. Marley and I were roommates. It was a great time.
That's fun.
But it was just a big shift from going from that until literally right about a month later, lockdown started and everything changed. And I would say I was on board already. I was vice president during the time of the beginning of the pandemic. And then in May, I ran for president, and I figured that everything would be back to normal by the time the fall term started. And that was just the beginning of our adventure.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest disappointment. the hope being crushed, because it was all fun and games, like in March, like you were saying, Fortnite, when nobody knew what they were doing with online school. Like quarantine was actually fun. Like I scroll through my Snapchat memories and I look like 1 year ago today, and like it was actually fun. Like I remember it was just like learning TikTok dances, Outer Banks, like great shows, great things. What were you gonna say?
I think we all made the most out of, or at least a lot of us really made the most out of like that 8 weeks where we were really like locked down. And I remember, for better for worse, me and my boys would play video games just to talk to each other, stay up till like the latest hours of the night. And it was just fun. And I've talked about this with my friends too recently, how I'm so excited for my Snapchat memories to come up of like the 1 year ago today's, to see all the things come back to me. But what we have to talk about is that BBYO jumped the gun with BBYO On Demand and did a phenomenal job. And actually, one of my good friends, Ian Hammer, he serves in the same role I do in Kansas City. He's the one who coordinated it. And they pulled together a fantastic slate of speakers like the past 6 months or whatever it's been, 6 to 8 months. And I mean, we have done some like great interviews and had some awesome experiences, Marley and I.
Nate, what is BBYO On Demand for everyone listening?
BBYO On Demand is the platform that BBYO introduced during quarantine to provide live virtual experiences for kids that kind of took place for the in-person experiences that were being lost. Sorry, I forgot to explain that.
That's okay.
But they were able, because kind of everyone was locked down, they were able to connect with some very influential people for programs and events, and they, pick and chose people to lead programs. And Marley and I have been able to lead a couple of super interesting and internationally acclaimed programs, which is awesome.
Yeah. Honestly, that kind of leads into my next question I have for you guys, because with Zoom fatigue, and it's hard to encourage other members of ours to hop on call, and especially with staring at your screen all day for school and then asking them to get on a BBYO program online. Has it been difficult encouraging other teens to get on more Zoom calls with already experiencing Zoom fatigue yourselves? And how do you guys combat feeling lack of motivation to stare at a screen 24/7 and hop from call to call? Did that make sense?
Yeah, that made sense. I think at the beginning, I was very motivated to get all these girls to show up, and like we had a really great recruitment push, and so it felt like everybody was really excited. But I definitely feel like we've kind of lost some interest just based on the fact that people don't want to come on Zoom again. And I think Marley and I are seeing that in our club, Girls United, that we lead at school too. Like the same few people come, but it's just people are tired of logging on for Zoom calls. And there's nothing really more that we can do to keep people engaged. But it is really important, even if a small number of people are coming repeatedly, just to continue the programming to keep that sense of community, even if we can't be together.
And I would echo that. It's been extremely difficult for sure. Like myself, we're on Zoom 6 hours a day, and then I work, and then to have to like hop on a Zoom and like lead another thing. It's just like, it's a lot. And by at this point, it's, I feel like all of us are burnt out a little bit. Like we just want to see people. We want to be off doing other things rather than on a Zoom call. And so that's been very difficult. But I feel like we've done the best we can. I feel like there's not a ton we can get or we can do to get other people on calls and doing things virtually, because they're all kind of in the same boat as us. So I think I applaud you guys and I applaud the people I work with for continuing to work and trying to do that. But I totally understand the kids who want to go off and do other things, have other obligations to get to, rather than to sit on another Zoom call. So
yeah.
It's my 2 cents.
And honestly, like the cards we've been dealt are not in our favor, whatever that term is, because
not at all.
Like you were saying, Shayna, none of us it's interesting because none of us signed up for this, and our members didn't sign up for this. They signed up for in-person programming or international convention where you would get to meet the celebrities, not see them over Zoom. And so it's hard because, of course, there's nothing we can do to like control this or prevent this. We're all trying to wear our masks and social distance and combat this enough, but it's hard and it's out of our control. And so it's hard to stay motivated in something that you didn't sign up for. We didn't ask for a year online. We don't want to be doing senior year classes when it doesn't even feel like senior year. It still feels like junior year. So I feel like that has a lot to play. And a question that we actually got from a parent was, what don't grown-ups fully understand about how challenging this is for teens? And I think that's a really interesting point that I want to ask you guys, what you've seen with your parents or teachers or other adults. Just we're having a completely different experience, having our, like the prime time of our years of being a teenager stripped away from us, and this whole year of social contact and like memorable moments of high school completely gone. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I'd echo exactly what you just said and what I said earlier about how, like, I think, you know, you take your first year and a half, maybe even two, to settle in with high school. And then I guess with you guys, you get 10th grade to settle in. And then junior and senior year is when you live it up. And then the 4 years of college, you live it up. These are kind of supposed to be, you know, the best 6 years of our life. And just to strip a quarter of that away instantly, like, it's awful. And like I said, the biggest things I missed from this were like seeing all my friends playing in their sports and being with all my friends watching that, and, you know, just hanging out with people, seeing people at school, going to the dances, really whatever it is, that social contact is something that we're almost a full year removed from. And that's the most challenging thing, is that we'll never get it back.
Yeah.
I think at the end of last year, everyone was so focused on like last year's seniors lost their graduation, they lost their prom, they lost whatever. And like, so sorry for them. That really sucks. But I think that we've kind of lost track of the fact that like we didn't even start a senior year.
Oh my God, we have nothing.
We haven't even started it, and we probably won't finish it because COVID cases are going to get worse once we all are back in school. And that's just like inevitable. So, like, we're probably never going to get to go to a high school prom. Like, it's those things that are just always going to be really sad. And I also think that like senior year is definitely one of the most like influential years of your life. Like, it's where you are applying to college, and like we went through that process without having the guidance of our school in person, and like had to ask teachers for college letter of recommendations like through email. Like, just those little things and relationships being made, and like different connections and experiences that shape you to who you are, to figure out where you want to go to college, and like making that biggest decision of your life that you've never had to make such a big decision. Like, it's just crazy that we're doing it without those influential moments.
We can't even see the schools that we're applying to for the most part. Like, I know you guys have probably gone on some college tours before COVID, or Shayna, you mentioned that one trip you took, but like I had to sit on virtual tours of my school. I cannot get a feel for that college, but seeing it on Zoom or in a picture slideshow, like, and like that's a whole other thing, but it's sad.
No, I jumped the gun. I was able to get to a couple of visits, which was awesome. And I'm so glad that I was able to do that. But I still need to get out and do more. That's the thing. Like, you said that did you even get out to visit any schools, Marley?
2, and I didn't even apply to them. So really no.
That's rough.
But yeah, so it's sad because senior year is the year that you look forward to the most. Like, yeah, sophomore year must suck to lose, but it's all the buildup that like gets you hyped up for senior year. And so it's sad that that is what isn't coming back. I would love to keep our conversation going. This is going so well, but I believe that is all the time we have for today. Nate and Shayna, thank you both so much again for joining me this week and for sharing your valuable opinions with everybody listening. And to the rest of you hearing this, thank you so much once again for listening to this week's episode of Spill the Soup. Before we go, please make sure to show some love for the podcast by subscribing and rating 5 stars to whatever platform you're listening on and wherever else you get your podcasts. We'll see you 2 weeks from now for our next episode, so stay tuned. Spill the Soup is part of the Jewfolk Podcast Network. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. For more information, go to tcjewfolk.com/podcast or email the show at podcast@tcjewfolk.com.